Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Fly With Us podcast. This podcast is bringing the art of conversation, self-love, self-care, mental health care and protection, life lessons, love lessons, and everything in between. Today we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Uncle Conscious. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a minute, right?
It's been a minute.
Trying to figure out how to get this happening.
Right. So let's get into this Mindfulness Minute real quick.
Okay.
Aversion and excitement. Every day, every moment is a new chance to begin again. I have not lost anything, for in this moment, the possibilities lie open to me. Today, you find before you easy tasks and difficult tasks, things that produce aversion and things that arouse your excitement. As you go through this day, whether you do something you like or something you dislike, keep your heart about you. Do not let yourself run away with resentment or anger. Do not let yourself run away with pleasure or distraction either. The calm heart does not run, nor does it tarry. Stay here with yourself in the present. Be mindful in all that you do. As you pause to be present in the middle of the day, consider whether any of these aversions or exciting moments could be viewed as new beginnings in your life. Pour your heart's intention into these new beginnings, whether they pertain to home, work, or leisure. Fill these openings of opportunity with goodwill. Wish for these new beginnings to prosper, for good things to arise out of today's effort, for every ounce of effort to reach its full conclusion. Resolve to see every good thing reach its full expression in your life.
I like that. That's good.
I thought so too. I think about, like you said, every day you have a choice to be positive or be negative about what is happening around you. And your end of the day outcome depends on how you navigate these ups and these downs.
Right.
So yeah, I like that. So you talk about this a lot in your teachings and your readings about self-worth.
In my teachings, in my readings.
I know your I follow you on social media, so I have seen the guru at work. I own some of your t-shirts, so I know. So you talk about self-work and it matters. What is self-work and why does it matter?
Well, I mean, self-work is basically everything that pertains to you, I guess, equipping yourself to navigate this world in a way that's most conducive to the best results of your life. So self-work pertains, it's a lot of things. As human beings, we are kind of, as we study and we learn about ourselves, we realize that we inherit genetically, we just kind of inherit a lot of challenges. You know what I mean? We are humans in a world that we're not wired for the world we're in. You know what I mean? So it's like levels. It's levels to like the things that we may have to. All right, so we're genetically predisposed to do certain things, and then we are indoctrinated and we're grown into certain things. So the clean slate that we are when we come out our mom, as soon as you hit the ground, and I mean, even while you're in your mom, you're inheriting things. You're getting all the outside stuff, even before your birth. So once you get in, someone's telling you what to do, someone is training you, someone's teaching you. And I mean, it's not always good, it's not always bad. People like to talk about trauma and those things happen early on. And a lot of times those traumas are not like these amazingly crazy things. They are simple things like you got hurt, you fell, you got burned. You know what I mean? But so self-work is the undoing of a lot of that stuff so we can get back closer to that, I would say, that cleaner slate, so we can think with clarity, so we can move and we can actually find out what we are and what we want to do in this world. There's a lot of things that kind of keep us from being as great as our potential would allow us to be because of that predisposed nature and all those things we inherit early on. And we're on autopilot. That's just the way we're genetically made. We're on autopilot. What can you do about it? Well, you can do self-work.
Okay. So I like that. Now, if I'm new to this whole self-work thing, if I was new to it, where do I start?
Start asking questions. Ask questions you don't have answers to. Ask questions you never thought about. Like, what am I? Who is the voice that's speaking in my head? You know, like, why does my body move this way? One of the biggest things that they, people love to say, they say knowledge of self. They say, what is it? It's know thyself. But a lot of times people think about that from the aspect of simply knowing your lineage or your history, which is cool. But we literally are walking around in these bodies we know nothing about. We know everything about the external world, or we think we do. We're these databases, so we're just gathering all this information. And honestly, we've been taught from very early age to kind of memorize things. And a lot of the things that we've kind of clouded our minds with, they're insignificant to what we really want. They just don't move us forward in the way that's best possible for us. So you get to understanding yourself and knowing why you do things, knowing why your body works the way it works, and having a better relationship with this body. I think a lot of us fail to appreciate how amazing we are as just humans in this body and the things that we can do. You know what I mean? And the more you start thinking about that, the more you appreciate things, the more you're able to assess what you actually can do. So your confidence grows, and all these different things about yourself start to kind of like, you're growing. You're growing. Like, you're feeling, you can flourish in an environment once you kind of worked on self to get a certain clarity in mind. So I said, just start asking questions. Like, ask questions. I don't know, or challenge things. You know what I mean? And not necessarily in a combative way, but challenge the norm, because sometimes something inside of you is going to tell you that just don't feel right, and you need to be like, go towards that. You know what I mean? You need to go towards the things that are scary. You need to go towards the pain and stuff like that, because on the other side of that is possibly a breakthrough. There can be joy, there can be prosperity, it can be a lot of things. But the moment you stop trying to learn or being curious about things, you kind of stifle yourself from the possibilities of growth to reach those things that you kind of want to reach.
And then that flies in the face of everything that I've been told. And like,
right.
If you get this, then you're comfortable. If you attain that, then you're comfortable, and stay in this place where you're comfortable. And now you're telling me that I got to get out this comfort box, and it might be something like, I don't know. Is there something on the other side?
Well, it definitely is something. You have to challenge those things. Like I said, it's a constant working to basically make this machine you're in work even better. You know what I mean? And self-assessment is important for relationships and business and everything else in life. You know what I mean? Being uncomfortable to an extent is beneficial, just like getting a little bit sick. Test your immune system. You know what I mean? I think we have to think about the things that can actually make us anti-fragile. And I think like a strong mentality, you know what I mean? Like a fortified mind comes through challenging a lot of things. But sometimes it's not necessarily pain. It's just the education and learning things different. There's so much that's changed in the last 5 years, last decade, last 20 years, that it's just unfounded. So you got to think about, how are we on a script where half the stuff that we were taught is either not true or it's flawed, whatever. So we're walking around with this mentality in a world that's readily changing and shaping new around us, not realizing that we definitely have the tools to create a different world. We will continue to be in that kind of preset, and we won't really go but so far, because we have to break the shell of, what we think we know. You know what I mean? And, it's not worth believing if you can't question it.
I like that. So one of the things that I've been doing throughout this pandemic is, I'm a teacher by trade, but I've been talking to people like, maybe this is what we needed so that we finally change our education system. Oh. Maybe we needed a complete shutdown and a reset of everything. So we start looking at, what do kids really need to know and to learn? And are there other ways to do it besides sitting in the classroom with the person for 8 hours a day to be able to learn it? But because that's uncomfortable, people look at me and go, that's weird. Well, why would you want to? And I'm like, let's just think about this for a second. Like follow me in this. What if we stop teaching them to regurgitate information that is useless? We stop teaching to this made up test that says, if you can pass this test, that means that you have gained knowledge. I have a kid who, he can't pass the state test, but if I gave him the components to a computer, he could build me a computer from scratch.
Right.
But the test doesn't measure that. So then I have to look at him and say, hey, you can't graduate and you can't get this piece of paper that they deem so important because you can't do that. But you can go work for Bill Gates.
Right.
So, I'm definitely feeling like, being uncomfortable. The pandemic and the shutdown and the quarantine has given me a lot of time to think. I've been doing some self-work, trying to get better, at certain things. And like you said, question, well, why do I do this? Or why do I do it this way? And some of those questions are, they're definitely not easy questions to answer.
They shouldn't be.
And sometimes I don't like the answer, and that's the part that I struggle with. So what happens when you go to do this self-work and you come up with these answers and you don't like the answers? Then what? You
got to ask yourself, why don't you like the answers? I think the other part is very interesting. You said a lot of stuff. I would love to talk about that school stuff. But I think for me personally, I started building a system of how can I be the best that, best I am, so like part of my whole journey is being fully responsible for the life that I'm living. If I have expectations and I have aspirations in life, am I matching those things in life? So if I'm uncomfortable about something, I need to address that thing. Is it something that I'm uncomfortable with because I'm doing something so-called wrong? Or is it attached to some trauma, something that happened even before as a youth or whatever? You know what I mean? People find different ways to get to that point. Some people do therapy, some people do plant medicine, some people do a lot of study, and you start putting pieces together. For me, I've been fasting for over 15 years. And doing a lot of meditations and then silence and stuff like that. And in starting those things, I wasn't aware until the future when I started to really study exactly why it was changing me. You know what I mean? So like, I have a perspective around one of the things that I like to say is like, I don't like to use the words positive and negative. They kind of lock you into a place, and you use these words all of a sudden. In most cases, they will trigger you in some kind of way that's probably not, it's probably going to make you feel unwell. It's going to make you not want to continue to move forward. So when you start changing your language around words, it allows you to maybe assess a thing from a place without being triggered. You know what I mean? So sometimes the things become less difficult. So we start reframing how we feel about stuff. So you're like, this is uncomfortable. I don't know why this is uncomfortable. If your mentality is, well, let me get through this and solve this problem or riddle or whatever, and I will ultimately feel better. It might not happen in this moment, but just the way, just how we're set up, just like the way we are as human beings, it will, because it's an exercise. You're starting to address a thing, but you have to find the means for you to get to those core things that works best for you. You know what I mean? It's like a whole lot of things happening at one time. And it's challenging to kind of like, you can't really just put it in one way. If this is a system, this is a set, this is how you do it, this is how you address a problem. The self-work in the sitting is doing that internal constant assessment and like knocking things off the wall one at a time. You know what I mean? So for me, my process has always kind of been like, all right, well, this is a thing in my life that I need to address. I have a feeling around this. So today in this meditation, that's what I'm going to deal with. You know what I mean? And as that becomes part of your process, it's kind of like, just like you have a list of goals or you have your to-do list of the day. Well, you have the things that you have to confront or you have to face. It may be a fear, you know what I mean? Anything that that's going to keep you from doing the other things that you love, the things that make you more healthy, you know what I mean? Should be, I won't say should be, but in my case are the things that I'm definitely going to deal with or face or confront. You're going to have to realize that things are going to be uncomfortable. But when you get underneath them and find out why they are, it starts to kind of dissolve a little bit, similar to like people have a lot of, existential like fears and all this other stuff. For me, I know that one of the biggest things that looms with most people is two things so stage fright and death, right?
Right.
So I got over stage fright, being public speaker for 20 years. So like, I'm good on that. A few years back though, I got into death. I had to reassess what that is, so you start asking questions again. I think we don't have a question about consciousness and what we are and what's happening, you know what I mean? But the more studies you do, it kind of takes a certain weight off of you, because now you have pressure. You have a lot of pressure because you have hypotheticals in your mind. Your mind is going crazy, and people have told you this, and you're afraid of this, and you're afraid of that. And then again, question things, because then what happens is like, wait, why am I afraid of this? Because they told me to be afraid. I did a little bit of study, found out they didn't know what they were talking about. And now you've cleaned the slate. So it's like literally peeling back the layers. We're these onions, man, and getting into it. But for me, I think I'm excited by the challenge of letting go of the layers. So for me, I've rewired the way I think around what a challenge is. You know what I mean? I don't say things are hard. I said things are challenging, they're difficult. Challenges are meant to be, are to be met. When you say something's hard, you give up. If you rewire the way you're thinking around a thing and reframe it and just get used to changing the language around words, or even just discarding words that don't serve you, it starts to change. It changed the way you see the world. Your perspective can change, and then be open to new models of thought. Sometimes we have these stagnant models because we have things that are tied to beliefs that don't serve us because they're false. They're just unfounded. You know what I mean? And that's what you're dealing. Say when you deal with like an elder, or you deal with people that, and you're like talking to them, and you're like, yo, fam, you don't even live in that world no more. But as human beings, that is how we're set up. We're set up to do what's comfortable. We're set up to protect ourselves. Sometimes our coping mechanisms, our body means well,
right?
But it's harmful. And it's like learning that, you know what I mean? I know I just kind of went tangential, but
no. I was, as we were talking, I was thinking about that and thinking about, when I started this journey, to do the self-work that I've been doing, to talk about the self-care, and even doing a podcast. It's so funny the number of people that I run into that are like my elders that go, well, what you worried about that for? Why are you talking about that? Why are you thinking about that? You need to just put all your cares in God's hands and leave it at that. And I'm like,
right.
Yeah, but I thought y'all said that God only helps those who helps themselves. So am I supposed to help myself, or am I not supposed to help myself? Like, which of these am I supposed to follow in terms of living my best life and living a life that makes me feel fulfilled, even if that doesn't mesh with what your ideal for what my life is supposed to look like?
Right.
So it was definitely rough. It's like being the 10-year-old kid who was grown up, but everybody still sees you as that annoying little 10-year-old, and they don't accept the fact that your mind has grown and you have evolved. So I feel like I spend a lot of time trying to convince other people that I'm okay and I'm good where I'm at, and I work hard to be good where I'm at with what I have. And I still get those looks like, well, we wasn't raised that way, or they didn't teach you that.
Right. And the other part of self-work is getting into this space that a lot of people don't want to get into, this non-judgment space. The space of you have an understanding, because now you've understood how you transform your life because you started doing internal work. You know how your mind works, brain science. So you can now view them. Now you have to learn how to view them as they're still in the space where they are on the old program. And it's not about right or wrong. Their perspective makes perfect sense. Their reality is their reality. They own it because that's what they're living. They're living in their body. You have to see that. Now, unless that person is doing something that's outright damaging or hurtful, you forgive them for that, whatever. And then you live by example through them. Or you challenge them by asking them questions and learning how to, I like to do this thing, I call it like the Zen people. You know what I mean? Because in Zen or Taoist, there's a situation where they'll ask you a question, or the question will be a riddle, and it really is not meant to be answered, but it's something that kind of makes a person pause and think. So I start learning how to ask better questions, how to challenge people in a way where I know where they're at. So I'm not challenging them to make them feel bad. I'm not challenging them to make them feel dumb or anything like that. I'm asking really simple questions sometimes, you know what I mean? And that's about language, and that's about understanding how people take it. So, individuals, what they may be offended by, and then you also can play the game. People are narcissists. People kind of like to, like for you to flatter them or whatever. So that's the other manipulation of communicating with human beings. So you kind of find out where they are, and you're genuine with them, and you just start asking them questions. When you learn how to ask better questions, and you make a person actually pause and stop, you disarm a lot of that confrontational energy, you know what I mean? Especially if you come in a genuine way, you know what I mean? And then what do you have to lose? You only have something to gain from this experience if you are truly being genuine and you want the best for that person that you're engaging with. If it's something other than that, you just don't need to engage them. You know what I mean? The other part of the self-work is like learning when to just like let shit go and don't engage foolishness. You know what I mean? Don't invite suffering. You know what I mean? The majority of the suffering that we're doing is wildly unnecessary. Once again, we were suffering. I'm like, you just a suffering over there, huh? Enjoy that. I'm gonna walk out of here. You know what I mean?
Now, and I don't follow Dr. Phil, but I love it when he asks people, "How's that working for you?"
Yeah, for real. That's the question. Like, how's that working out for you?
Yeah, I would never sit and pretend to know it all or pretend to, be a judgmental person. But I do ask a lot, and that's working.
Yeah.
You like the way it's working. Okay.
I mean, and that's your business. You know what I mean?
That is your business.
It's learning to get to that part. So the other part of self-work is to place yourself, I would say, in a place to give and receive love freely, fully. There's exercises that you can do for that. Think about all the things, the components that you need to function in this very interesting life that we're living in. You know what I mean? And what's the best course of action? You know what I mean? I'm very pragmatic about most things, so people, I don't even like to use the word ego, but if we use that word, some people's egos are overloaded, and then people say, well, you need it, and I'm like, yeah, health in a healthy way. Learn how to have a better relationship. I had somebody hit me up in a DM like, yo, Conscious, do you got any suggestions or any books about killing your ego? I was like, why are you trying to kill your ego? Like, why are you trying to murder your ego? I was like, let's chill. Let's chill for a minute and examine what the ego is, if it actually exists. Because again, that's some shit some nigga made up. But
I'm like,
some old dude made that shit up. I mean, it's cool. I think also that sometimes we label things so we can have a better understanding of things, and we can, because that's the world we live in. We have to label certain things. But there's a gift and a curse to labeling. Once you label a thing, it becomes that, you crystallize it as such, and you can't deviate from it. So that's why, like, most people have such a hard time being able, what do they say, cognitive dissonance, holding different ideas or certain patterns and whatnot. It's very possible. If you truly want to live a life where you are being fully responsible, you are being truly honest, and you're trying to get to the core and the heart of things, you're trying to solve problems and things of that nature, you will get to a place where that ego doesn't interrupt you. And ego is crazy. If you want to say that word, it's crazy, because what it'll do is it'll put you in danger, which is crazy. Now, I don't want you to get rid of it, right? Because you get rid of it, you remove it from it, it's gone. You know what I mean? So when you do that cleansing of self, it's like, you're gonna take, no, don't, ooh. You know what I mean? That's how it behaves. But then also the ego can do things like it could interrupt your artistic flow. It can be this crazy filter that keeps you from producing the greatest thing that you can, because you're sitting here thinking about how people will perceive a thing. You know what I mean? So it can definitely get in the way in so many different ways. But yeah, just in general, learning how to, like I said before, learning how to be able to give and receive love, being able to not be judgmental about things where it's not necessary. Those are kind of like the self-work keys that help you around those difficult challenges. You know what I mean? Because like it starts like this. You start learning stuff and you want to tell everybody, I want to save my people. Y'all do. Then it turns into you mad judgy. And if you really trying to teach somebody something, you done reject, you so mean. You know what I mean? Like, why would I ever listen to you with this negative reinforcement that I'm getting from you?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Self-work allows for you to be a better teacher, a better student, to move through this thing, to shed the layers that are keeping you from like really, really being those things that you want to be. You know, and that's when people are suffering because they are thinking so much about what everybody else has to say, all the things that the beliefs that they've inherited that they've never challenged, and they just got all this going on in their heads. The moment you decide, I want to find the best course of action, I'm going to be it's like we work out our bodies. Oh, I want to get this body crazy. You know, you beat your face, all this stuff. But what about inside you?
Right.
Because when you do that inside you, the other stuff don't matter. And like, it'll be a choice. It'll be a choice that now I want to work out really hard and be ripped. Now I need to be ripped because somebody going to love me, is going to validate my existence. Your existence is validated because you was born.
I think
Goes
so.
no further than that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But it's work. Takes time. Takes years.
I like it. So
doesn't happen overnight.
In a few minutes we have left. So you're an artist. You make shirts. You are a producer for Bonfire Radio.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have so much. We got to make sure that you come back. But
yeah, definitely.
What inspires you musically and as an artist on canvas? Like, how do you get the inspiration? What inspires you?
I mean, that's one of those weird questions. Because I'm always peeling back the layers. You know what I mean? I don't like to give people these flowery answers about a thing. I'm trying to find out why, because I don't know. You know, I can't make it up. So for me, even in conversations about a lot of stuff, you know, when you start talking about the mind and the mind, body, soul, people start going spirit this and universe this. And I'm like, I have to change my language around that because that's not the science. That's not what I'm experiencing. And while I've had these very, I would say, supernatural feelings, I can't really describe them, but I don't discount them. So when it comes to a question like what inspires me, at this point, I can't really say. The search for why I do this is, I guess, the inspiration. You know what I mean? I can't point to like, oh, I just love painting because, you know, I'd be lying if I'm out here. I'm like, I just want to inspire everybody. I think that comes as that's like not a side effect. That's an extra benefit, you know, because at the end of the day, my life is about me living it. It's about me having this experience, exploring and like really deep diving to understand what my existence is. So it's not outward, you know, and I think it becomes a lot more amazing when it's less outward because it ends up being outward, you know? So by default, if I'm working towards being my best self and I'm creating and I'm creating this ball of energy and people around me are affected by it. You know what I mean? I could say maybe I'm inspired by that, or I'm inspired by seeing the growth of others through the beacon that I can put out. You know what I mean? I'm more so inspired by not so much the art and things of that nature, but what it is to be a human being and have these exchanges and to do deep thought about all the interconnected things that led me to this point. You know, to be fully appreciative of all my experiences because they have made what I am as far as what this body presents to the world, what it is. You know what I mean? So I can't discount anything. I can't have a negative attitude towards all these things that were part of this soup that made me. You know what I mean? Yeah, I just do stuff, you know, at this point. And I'm always asking myself now because it's like, I'm trying to peel back so many layers of identity and all these other things. Because I'm thinking about the science of us, of consciousness, you know, the hard question of consciousness. What are we? Where does consciousness begin? Where do ideas come from? Nobody fucking knows. They still can't even explain to you dreams. So I'm not going to sit here and just regurgitate the typical answer to I don't know what inspiration is. And I don't think we'll ever really know. All we know is that we have these experiences and we have emotions and affect and all the stuff. And I'm having like this amazing like time exploring things. And also I kind of subscribe to, you know, I float in and out of a life of duality and non-duality, you know. So that's why I say I get away from the labeling things. It's very challenging to have conversations about stuff because we're so based and grounded in a certain 3D reality kind of like ideals that I like to just exist. So I don't have to really say much for it. You know what I mean? And people have questions and I'd be like, I just don't have an answer for you. I apologize. Take some shrooms. Maybe you'll get that answer you're looking for. You know what I mean?
That's the best.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So like, it's interesting. And my answer is, I don't know. I love to say I don't know.
Okay. So with all the many hats that you wear, right, what do you do for self-care? When it's just you and you, what are you doing to...
I think self-care is a daily measure in general, but if you want to have a specific, I know Tuesday is Therapy Tuesday. While I don't go to conventional therapy, I had a friend that was going to therapy on Tuesdays, so I decided Therapy Tuesday I was going to just call Therapy Tuesday, sometimes Thursday. And what that entails is letting my body reset, not doing anything, not taking calls, not doing anything strenuous. I may just take a day of full rest so my body can recover. It could be just a day of study. You know what I mean? Everything that goes into me functioning well and better. You know what I mean? Mondays now, I'm on some like, you know what, I'm just doing water because I'm letting my body reset, you know. The weekends I allow for myself to eat some wild shit sometimes. You know what I mean? But just to kind of being mindful of those things. Self-care for me though is just totally always being present, always appreciating my experience. So it happens every day. There's this just crazy list of different things that I do, but everything is towards living a better life and putting myself in a position so I can constantly create the life that I want in front of me, you know. And I would say this to end for everyone: why would we ever want to keep doing the same thing we'd already been doing? You know, life is abundant, you know what I mean? And thinking outside of just financially, the infinite amount of things you could study, you could even learn about yourself, the amount of music you can listen to, the different books that you can go, the places that you could go, the things that you can do with your body, you know what I mean, are infinite, you know. So like the way and systems that can be, you know, I think the other big thing, especially if you live in America, is to stop looking at the world through the American lens because it's flawed. And what it does is it blocks you from seeing where people are making progress, where people are building new systems that actually care for the people, that care for the children, you know what I mean? Even economics, you know, a lot of people talking about crypto and stuff like that. This is a change, you know, we're talking about self-banking. So there's so many things that, man, if you just dedicate yourself to study and questioning things and working on you internally, I can't explain to you why you attract all these things, because I'm not going to say the law of attraction. I'm not going to say none of that stuff. What I'm going to say is that in my experience, the more work you do internally and the more intention you set forward and you just focus, the quicker you will get to whatever that goal is that you have, and it will come. But we have to learn how to disregard stuff that doesn't serve us, stop doing extra shit that doesn't help, you know, and get out of our own way. You know what I mean? And then also accept the reality that we can't control everything, but you control what you can control and you go hard at that. You know what I mean? Like you put your work in, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, on some 4 agreements, can you say, am I impeccable with my word? And that doesn't mean just like, oh, I said I was going to do something, I did it. No, be impeccable with your word is be accountable for every idle word. You know what I mean? I wish a nigga did. I wish a nigga would. And then a nigga does. What you finna do?
Right.
You know, you know what I mean? Like, and I've learned that. I've got stories. So like, yeah, your mouth. You know, like your mouth. But yeah, man, that's it. And just be ready to do the work. But be eager and enthusiastic about the change that you know is going to come, because you're going to create it. The more you know about yourself, the more you understand that you can do things, and your confidence starts to grow. And that's where a lot of people are missing and they're lacking, because they are not aware of what they're capable of. And this is outside of, you know, like these scales and stuff in school and people and stuff. Just like, you are human, yo. You are like the craziest piece of technology on the planet. Yo, your body could do crazy stuff.
Right.
Like, it's wild what you can do. You know what I mean? And you aren't even the same person that you were 5 years ago, because your whole body done got new everything. So, you know what I'm saying? So like, that within itself is a question you ask yourself. You're like, wait, I'm not the same. How does this shit work? Well, we're so busy with everything else, we don't ask that question. I'm like, yo, literally, your biochemistry is changing every day. This hand is not the hand that it was 5 years ago. So you're like, what? You know, when you really think about it, you know, it's like, I got that to be concerned with.
Right.
Not the shade room, not nothing else. And not to shade you if that's your entertainment, but you got to have a balance. You got to be like, all right, let me cut this shit out and let me really focus right now, because I want to make this money, or I want to pass this test, or I want to be better at communicating. I want to have a better life with my family, or, you know, my partners, or whatever. You just want to be better at shit. And that's just like read, study, listen to lectures, all that, and enjoy it.
Or, you know, like I said, I follow you on social media, and people who follow us get some of your teachings, because I'm always like, shout out to my dude Cons, or in my TK voice, because my favorite TK saying is, we all got the same internet. So when people say, right,
we do.
They start spewing stuff, I'm like, we all got the same internet.
We do. We definitely do.
We're just going to put that out there. So as we wrap up, of course, we always got to end with the brain science for the show. So this week's episode is emotional self-control and why it matters. First, what is emotional self-control? Emotional self-control is the ability to manage disturbing emotions and remain effective even in stressful situations. Notice that I said manage, which is different from suppressing those emotions.
Yes.
These are positive feelings, and that's what makes life feel rich. But we also need to allow ourselves the space and the time to process those difficult emotions.
Right.
I love it. So why does it matter? To understand the importance of emotional self-control, it helps to know what's going on in your brain when you're not in control. Just saying. There it is.
That's so important. Like,
right.
That's exactly what we've been talking about the whole time. Like,
exactly. See how it all fits? I'm trying to, man, I'm telling you, I'm going to be a guru one day, right?
I ain't nobody's guru, man.
Sorry. So how do you develop emotional self-control? How can we minimize these emotional hijacks that our brain does? First, we need to use another emotional intelligence competency, like emotional self-awareness. And that starts with paying attention to our inner signals and application of mindfulness, which lets us see our destructive emotions as they start to build, and not just when our amygdala hijacks and takes over. So we got to recognize those things before they happen. So when they do happen, we know how to move and navigate, so we don't become a puppet to whatever we're looking at that is controlling us.
That's true.
You can also try my favorite, which is a cognitive approach. Talk yourself out of it. Reason with yourself. Or if you can intervene biologically, meditation or relaxation techniques to calm your body and mind, such as deep belly breathing, are very helpful. As with mindfulness, these work best during the hijack and when you have practiced them regularly. Unless these methods have become a strong habit of mind, you can invoke them out. You cannot invoke them just out of the blue. So you've got to do the work beforehand. Your emotions in check and in control. Consistency.
That's that right there. If you literally, if you're doing that work all the time, you self-check, your self-check game becomes crazy. Equanimity is definite. but you got to do consistently what you just said. That breathing, that silence, that stillness, that paying attention to stuff and checking yourself. Like somehow and magically, I self-check. Like I'll be self-checking all the time. Like something be like, nah, don't even, nope. No, seriously, like I don't have the urges, like don't speak out of turn, mind your business, like all of that. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like you reset. You're a reset for progress. You gotta do that stuff, yo. It's necessary.
So how do we find you? How do we get your merchandise? How do we get your guru teachings?
Man, stop saying that. I'm not a guru. I just say Swami stuff. If you want to follow and you want to, you know, kind of like when you listen to this podcast, you're always getting something that challenges you and gives you like tools and whatnot. If you follow the Fly Podcast, you see all the social media. Similar to that, I have All Clear Thought. So you can follow All Clear Thought on IG and just go through all of the quotes and stuff. And it's just like really simple things that we might not think about every day, that it's a question that you may not ask yourself. You know what I mean? Trying to get people to just take a moment, ask yourself a question, peel back a layer. You know what I mean? And then what you'll find and you'll discover is that it'll just lead you somewhere else. It's just like watching YouTube and going down the rabbit hole. You ask enough questions, you start. And the other thing is that's how your brain works. So if you ask yourself subconsciously, you're trying to get an answer. Like it's automatic. So you don't know why, you know, and it explains a lot of those things in our lives. When we be like, yo, I was thinking about it. I was heavily asking this question. And then I stumbled upon the answer to it a week later, or I was opening up the refrigerator and I knew. Because that's how dope you are. Like your brain is trying to help you. Just do what you got to do so it can help you. God damn it.
That is the best.
Yeah, All Clear Thought. Yeah, that's primarily that. And I mean, just Bonfire Radio. I do radio every Friday. I'm on the radio from 11:30 to 1:30, doing Friday Feeling, 2 hours of music. So if you want to find me, you can find me through Bonfire Radio, All Clear Thought, and you'll find me.
I like it. And we'll definitely, when we post this episode, we'll make sure that we post links so everybody can find you.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep flying with us and getting better at that clear thought, join in the Clear Thought movement. Continue to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you get your favorite podcast. Don't forget those daily self-care assignments. Uncle Conscious, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
You have to promise to come back.
Yeah, of course. We can talk about the other. It's mad stuff to talk about.
It's mad stuff to
all day. All day.
All right. On behalf of the Fly With Us podcast, I'm Lady Bounce, and we out of here.
Yeah.